Introverts and extroverts. That's what we're going to be talking about today. What's going on, guys? My name's Chris. You're watching Raising the Bar. And I want to dive into this topic because I think people identify one way or the other. Either you're an introvert or you're an extrovert. But I think that is absolute rubbish. I think it's situational. That's what we're going to be discussing today. So, when we talk about an introvert, what is the first thing that comes to mind? Somebody that's shy, typically, right? They're not very expressive. They're not the one that goes out and engages in conversations at, let's say, a social event or a party. Maybe they don't have a lot of friends. Maybe they're a loner in the traditional sense. And then we have our extroverts, which are typically outgoing people, very social, risk-taking, and a little bit more liberal in that sense. Now, the reason why I say that it's situational is because if we were to take our typical introvert and we figured out what they really enjoyed. Let's say they loved playing Dungeons and Dragons. Let's say they love playing that game, and we took that person, they're very good at this game, mind you, and we put them into a game room where people are playing Dungeons and Dragons. Because of the level of interest that introvert has within that game and their skill level, it provides them with a level of confidence. They're in a situation where they know the situation at hand, they have a good understanding of their own capabilities, and they have confidence as a result of that. So we put them into this game table. They're surrounded by 6 or 7 people that they're playing with. Do you think that introvert is going to be shy in that particular situation? I personally do not, because it's a different environment that we're placing them in. We're placing them into a place where they're comfortable, confident, and know what their capabilities are. So the odds of them being introverted in that particular situation are relatively slim. Now, this isn't a one-size-fits-all approach, but I want you to get your wheels turning here in terms of the introvert versus extrovert type mentality. The same is true for video games. The same type of person that is kind of antisocial in a way, doesn't go out, doesn't engage people in conversation. They get home, they put on a headset, and next thing you know, they transform. They're chatty Cathy, jabberjaws, just chatting away with different people. Why is that? Well, because they're comfortable in that environment, right? They're confident in what they're doing. There's a big difference there, and we need to distinguish the fact that, is that person introverted, whatever that word means, that label that we put onto people, or is it a confidence issue and an insecurity issue? And that's what I think it is. And the reason why I say that with so much confidence is because I myself identified as an introvert for a long time. All throughout my middle school years and for the majority of my high school years, when it came to the lunch tables that I sat at, when I would walk into that cafeteria, I had an option, right? You could sit anywhere that you want. I felt as if there was all these cliques that were already established, so I couldn't sit at their table, of course not. So I ended up sitting typically either by myself or maybe with one other person that I was comfortable sitting with. But had I had the confidence to go up and sit down at that table and have a conversation, or maybe folks would converse with me, it could have been very different. But I wasn't willing to take the risk because I was too scared. And I think that's the root cause of that introversion, is you being too afraid to put yourself out there because you don't want to be judged, you don't want to be made fun of, you don't want to feel less than. But if you never take the risk, then how do you expect anything to change? Now, some people out there are very comfortable staying within their bubble, within that comfort zone, and not putting themselves out there. But I really want to sit down and ask those people, are you truly happy with the direction that your life is going as a result? If you're not taking chances, if you're not putting yourself out there, then how do you expect to extract as much out of life as it has to offer? It's probably not going to happen. Now, when we talk about an extrovert is that social butterfly. Do you think that's nature or nurture that creates that type of person? I don't think anybody's inherently this social butterfly. I believe it's a series of conditioning that happens over time where that person doesn't have the negative reinforcement that drives them into their own head. with those people aside, because clearly they're a little bit different in the way that they were raised in their own experiences, so they view things differently than an introverted person does. But that's not to say that we can't flip-flop between the two, just like I talked about with the Dungeons and Dragons player in the video game player. It's a situational thing. So if you are in a position where you feel comfortable and confident, the likelihood that you're going to be a little bit more vocal, outgoing, is much higher than the latter. So let's talk about starting a new job. You start a new job, it's the first day, you're maybe a little shy, a little bit timid, a little nervous, you don't know anybody, you're in a new environment. Typically, you're not going to be this super outgoing person, but typically when you work a position, the longer you're there and the better you are at that role, your level of risk-taking, your ability to be outgoing, social, it typically creeps up over time as you get more comfortable. So that's what I want you to think about here when it comes to being introverted or extroverted. Are you truly this introverted person? Or is it the fact that you're a little insecure, you're not super confident, and you have a difficulty putting yourself out there? If that sounds like you, I want you to reach out to me because I was that person. I know exactly what that feeling's like. I was able to overcome it. I can get my thoughts out there. I can socialize and talk with anybody. It's such a powerful characteristic to be able to possess because it allows you to open doors for yourself. And I want other folks out there to be able to open those doors and better their life as a result of it. The reality is nothing's going to happen if you're not putting yourself out there and you're just keeping your mouth shut all the time. You're not going to get that girlfriend that you want. You're not going to get that job you want. Your life is not going to go in the trajectory that you want. And if you sit there with an entitled mindset thinking everything's going to come to you, hate to break the news to you, it ain't going to happen. So it's on you to make those changes. But it's going to start by taking action. We got to figure out why you're insecure, why you don't feel good about yourself, why you don't feel comfortable putting yourself out there. And then it's incremental baby steps to try to get you into that extroverted mindset, that mindset of abundance, to where you know that you can put yourself out there, nothing bad's going to happen except for good things. And that's what I want everybody out there to be comfortable doing. Before you label yourself an introvert or an extrovert, I want you to sit down and reflect on how you view yourself. Because at the end of the day, that's really what it all boils down to, and that's going to dictate which way on the pendulum you swing. Now, there are some people out there that are introverted by nature, but again, back to the situational standpoint, are a lot more extroverted. You see this a lot with performers and actors that are typically introverted individuals, but once the camera goes on, boom, they're a completely different person. Is it acting? Are they more comfortable in front of the camera? Is it situational? I think it's a combination all thereof, but they're in a different position than you and I. We need to work. We need to be able to get to a point where we can make that decision. If we want to become withdrawn, sure, we can certainly do that. But it takes time to be able to get to that point because I want you to have a solid foundation and a good understanding of who you are as a person, how you can go about improving, and I want you to be able to be comfortable making those changes along the way. So, having said all that, guys, thank you so much for listening. I appreciate it. Feel free to visit my website, rtbtransformations.com, personal development coaching, fitness coaching, and as always, don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe down below. And with that, guys, I'm out of here. Make today great.